Thanks. We feel. Good evening and welcome everyone. Nyama, Wurundjeri Woiwurrung Guinganinu Bik Wenarop Darabandari, Nyariana Nyanga Bik Ban Ba Nyagu, Gaguk Al Nangit Bambuth Yellingbu Ba Gamaji. I acknowledge the Wurundjeri Woiwurrung people on whose land Darebin Council stands. I recognise their continuing connection to land, water and culture and pay my respect to elders past, present and emerging. It's lovely to see everyone here for this meeting, which is of course the first meeting of the fourth council year effectively. We have apologies tonight from Councillor Greco. Councillors, are there any conflicts of interest to declare tonight? No, there are none. So I should have said membership of this meeting is as listed also in the agenda. So that will bring us to confirmation of the minutes of the previous council meeting. It's moved by Councillor Messina, seconded by Councillor McCarthy. All those in favour? That motion is carried. So we're now at question and submission time. Before we begin the questions, I would like to remind everyone here in the gallery, the councillors and those watching online, about my expectations in relation to our behaviour and remind councillors of our obligations under the Code of Conduct. We pride ourselves here on being a progressive and contemporary council. In the interests of demonstrating exemplary leadership, I have high expectations that we will all be professional in our conduct throughout the evening and respectful in our debate. It is important for both councillors and the community to remember that our council chamber is both a workplace and a public space, and that we have an obligation to ensure the working environment and public forums are safe for everyone, both emotionally as well as physically. I want to be clear that I won't tolerate any form of personal acrimony or insult, grandstanding or yelling, nor will I put up with talking over the top of one another or any use of unreasonable or impolite language or interjections from the gallery. It is a busy agenda tonight, so I will encourage people to stick to time and to direct any questions or comments through me as the chair. We'll now move to question time. We'll start, as usual, with questions that have been submitted prior to the meeting online. I'll invite people to come up and state their question. If people are not able to come up to state their question, an officer will come to you with the mic. It is important that we use that because it enables the sound to be captured for those people who might be watching online. I would ask everyone directs their questions to me as the Mayor, and that questions are limited to 2 so that everyone has an equal opportunity to speak. There is no need for lengthy introductions to questions. So the first questions that we have received are from Ms Serena O'Malley. Serena is not here, so I'll read those questions. Question 1. At the Darebin Council meeting on the 22nd of July 2019, I asked about lobbying that Darebin Council had undertaken to ensure that bicycle parking fits with the aesthetic of the new station, is sufficient, accessible, sheltered and secure, including for electric and alternative bicycles. Can you please provide the community with an update about the status of bicycle parking at Reservoir Station, especially design elements such as potential integration of bicycle parking into the side of the station along the lines of Rosanna Station? And the second part, there will be large-scale planting required around Darebin Station once it has been completed. Can you please update the community on how this planting will be managed to ensure that Indigenous plants are used throughout the new open space area? Thank you, Ms O'Malley, for this question. The state government hasn't yet confirmed if it will adjust its plans regarding bicycle parking at Reservoir Station. I also haven't had a response to my letter to the Minister for Transport Infrastructure of the 21st of October 2019, and we will ask officers to follow up on this. We've been calling for 120 bicycle parking spots and have raised this over many months. I would encourage you to also contact the state government to let them know how important this is to you. Previously, the state government has said that it will reinstate the 26 secure bike parks in the parketeer and provide 16 other bicycle hoops. In relation to trees, With regard to the species at Reservoir Station Precinct, the State Government has advised that they will plant at least 330 trees and a large number of grasses and shrubs, and they have said that these will be largely native and Indigenous to the local area. They haven't shared the full details of species as yet, and we again encourage you to contact the State Government for this information. Our officers will put you in touch. Council has been advocating for a 4-to-1 replacement rate for any trees removed, and the State Government project team have significantly increased the number of trees they will plant as a result. We've been aiming to strengthen biodiversity values in this planting. Ms O'Malley's second question is as follows. Darebin Council is continuing to plant expensive, mature, exotic trees on many streetscapes throughout the municipality, despite the important benefits of using Indigenous seedlings. Can you please refer me to the relevant policies that determine the street tree planting regime and the soonest opportunity for the community to be consulted about amending the relevant policies? Thank you also for this question. Darebin Council plants the right tree in the right spot as per Council's Urban Forest Strategy 2013 to 2025. If there is no suitable tree theme in a street, a new theme is chosen by offering suitable trees for the site with both native and exotic options to be voted on by residents, considering all site constraints, including soil volume and infrastructure, both above and below ground. Advanced tree stock is planted as the most viable option in streetscapes, considering maintenance required, vandalism and establishment requirements. That brings us to the end of those questions that were submitted prior to the meeting. I'll now invite any questions from members of the gallery. Are there any questions? Mr Nugent.
John Nugent, 3076. Mayor Rennie, my question is about the Darebin Dole Master Plan. I have been receiving correspondence that the south-east corner of Darebin West is in the master plan. The master plan for the south-east corner, there are no proposed plans or finance available for this project. The whole master plan is on a financial drip system, not like our friends in the south. They are fully funded within 2 years. Mayor Rennie, how about informing the people of the north what is going on in the south-east corner of Donath West? What part will they play in this master plan?
Thank you for that question, Mr Nugent. I'll take most of it on notice. I would note that master plans are typically delivered over a 10-year period, and it's quite normal that a master plan does not get funded. I can't think of any instance in which a master plan has been completely funded in a 2-year period. So I'll take the question relating to the southeast corner on notice.
Thank you. My second question, before I start, I haven't received correspondence from my last council meeting for the answers for the last council meeting. And I was just wondering if they're on the way or something, Madam Mayor, because I did ask 2 questions last time.
I understand that council officers have told you that they have those answers available and will be providing them to you in writing. I'm sorry if I was given incorrect information.
No, I haven't been told anything by anyone here, Madam Mayor Rennie. Anyway, I'll go on with my second question. Mayor Rennie, I've referred to a letter from the CEO dated the 5th of September 19. In the letter it stated the council may close a council meeting to the public under section 89.2 of the Local Government Act 1989. Mayor Rennie, we know that 26% of the staff were made redundant over a 2-year period. How much is the total redundant paid out? I'm not asking for private information. As this is ratepayers' money, we have a right to know. And when council keeps this truth from you, what are they covering up? Thank you.
Mr Nugent, I reject the assertion that anything is being covered up. I'll state that categorically. I'm also not certain of the veracity of the information you've provided. I'll take that on notice and get an answer.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? There being none, we'll proceed with the rest of the meeting. That brings us to item number 6, petitions. Councillor Lasserf.
Thank you, Mayor Rennie. I have a petition to table tonight, and it is a petition to Darebin Council to restore and protect Cane Avenue East Bushland Reserve in Northcote. So there is a petition that has been signed by 24 people, and I'll read out the petition. It's quite lengthy, so I apologise. We are writing to ask you to restore, protect and maintain the Cane Avenue East Bushland Reserve, a precious linear habitat corridor in Darebin. As Darebin's own open space strategy says, we need to be bold and ambitious to maintain the beauty of our green and natural spaces and safeguard their livability. We need to make sure local people have access to natural spaces for passive and active outdoor enjoyment to improve wellbeing. We need to connect corridors of habitat for wildlife, protect the area's biodiversity and contribute to cooling our busy city. This habitat corridor is much needed and we need your help. We appreciate the recent mowing and snippering organised by the Parks Department, and we are grateful for the recent contribution of plants, tree guards and mulch, and ask that this continue. We plan to engage the local community with a number of Friends Days of planting, weeding and mulching. We will reach out to the residents in the 2 new high-density residential developments nearby on Railway Place, Fairfield, who are in dire need of green space and community engagement. Protecting our green streetscape also means removing the option of parking on the Bushland Reserve. We should not give up our significant and precious green open space for cars. This is also a safety issue. Allowing parking on the Bushland Reserve on our narrow avenue increases the risk of dooring for cyclists. By allowing parking on the reserve with cars pulling out unexpectedly from the Bushland Reserve into the narrow street, you've increased the risk of accidents, which is of particular concern to the many local families with young children on scooters and bikes. We ask you to alter the existing provisions to make sure parking is excluded from the reserve. We, the undersigned, together with the Friends of Cane Avenue East Bushland Reserve, ask you to commit to nurturing, valuing and protecting this natural open space on our doorstep. We have had great interest from the Wurundjeri Land Council and from the member for Northcote, Ms Kat Thanopoulos MP. And I would like to move a motion that the petition be received and referred to the Chief Executive Officer for response.
Thank you, Councillor Surf. Seconded by Councillor McCarthy. All those in favour? That is carried. Are there any further petitions? There being none, we'll move now to urgent business. There is no urgent business that I'm aware of, so we'll move to consideration of reports. Report 8.1, performance of the 2018-19 Capital Works Program. Councillor Lawrence.
Just got a question.
Yes.
Mayor Rennie, my question is in regards to this endorsement of a transfer of 7.8 million or so, is there a requirement for this to be done at this meeting through you, through the CEO or whoever's representing CEO?
Thank you. I'll refer that to the Acting CEO, Ms Bishop.
Thank you for the question. Councillor Lawrence, through you, Mayor Rennie. No, there's no legislative requirement. However, it's recommended that the transaction is done as soon as possible.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? Thank you. I've got a motion to move the recommendation from Councillor Amir, seconded by Councillor Newton.
I'd move foreshadow a motion to defer the item.
Thank you, and Councillor Lawrence has foreshadowed a motion. So we'll deal first with the motion that we have in front of us, which has been moved by Councillor Amir. Councillor Amir.
Thanks very much. This has come to Council previously and has already been delayed once. There was information asked to be provided in this report as a request from Council to provide more information on the variance in the 2018-19 Capital Works budget. So in summary, you can see it's very much a clear report. We have around 7% of major projects delayed and 8% not proceeding. Most projects did go forward mostly within the regular expected budget with a variance of less than 10% and less than $5,000. We also made some savings from the competitive tender process, totalling over $1 million, which can be put towards future projects. So the report is very clear. I'm now very pleased to put forward the recommendation to move the funds into the Major Capital Works Reserve, as I'm sure it will be very much needed in the coming years for our ambitious capital works strategy over the coming decade.
Thank you, Councillor Amir. Councillor Newton.
Thank you, Mayor Rennie. Just to add to what Councillor Amir said, so this is something that's come to us before, but more information was requested. We've now got that, and I'm really glad that this is on the public record about why there were these variations. And what this allows us to do is transfer $7.8 million to the Major Capital Works Reserve, and that allows us to fund intergeneral infrastructure projects such as the Reservoir Pool and Northcote Pool redevelopments.
Thank you, Councillor Newton. Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, Mayor Rennie, I've got an additional question I just wanted cleared up. It's identifying 8.4 million minus underspend and 600,000 overspend, and so which would obviously represent historically the largest capital rollover in the history of the City of Darebin. Is that the same figure that's in the audit report in the item 814 that refers to a 5.6 million rollover of capital works, or are they different years?
Thank you for that question, Councillor Lawrence. I'll refer that to Ms Bishop.
Through you, Mayor Rennie, I'll have to take that on notice. I haven't got those figures in front of me.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Lawrence, did you have a further question?
Well,
Or does anyone else wish to speak?
no, I've got an additional question, which is, I'm trying to understand if this Major Capital Works Reserve is the same mechanism we had for the $6 million of the development levy, which was for the High Ball Court. Is that the same reserve?
Thank you for that question. I'll also refer that to Ms Bishop or another staff member.
Through you, Mayor Rennie, no, this is a different reserve.
Thank you.
Through Mayor Rennie, I've got a supplementary question on that. So this money at the moment wouldn't be able to go towards the multi-stadium complex project?
Thank you. I'm going to refer that to Mr Hewitt.
Through you, Mayor Rennie, apologies. The multi-sport stadium is subject to a report later in the agenda tonight. The council has allocated funding towards it, including the DCP amount of $6.5 million, which the councillor may be referring to. It's currently fully funded, and it doesn't need additional funding.
Thank you. Councillors, are there further speakers? Councillor Lawrence.
Mayor Rennie, yes, I'd just speak against adopting this report at this stage, as I've mentioned of foreshadowing a deferral motion on it. I've got a number of concerns with the timing of this. It's an unusual one. It's not required for us to deal with it. We have got a considered budget that's already been advertised. This seems to me to be changing the budget that's been a community-agreed budget and it's gone through a community consultation process, and we're sort of throwing the balls in the air as we go along. Now, in regards to the savings, as noted, I've had grave concerns about 20% contingencies being added to capital works projects throughout this council's last 2 years. And so what we're now seeing is that a number of items in my ward that were crowded out during the budget process are now, it turns out the 20% contingency was over-generous. We've now got a changing it. We're basically redrafting last year's budget without due consideration of any priorities, and then we're basically going to transfer only to projects that are super large. Now, this to me is very poor governance, to be interrupting a budget even before a half-year budget point's been reached. I'm not sure of the requirements of it. I would have thought that we would consider such things after a mid-year review, and I don't know why this can't be heard in February.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Are there further speakers? Only if there's no further speakers. So there are no further speakers. So Councillor Amir, would you like a right of reply?
Yes, thank you. I just thank you to the other councillors. Just to clarify that what we're doing here is transferring unspent funds from major infrastructure projects to remain in major infrastructure projects. So it's absolutely very much consistent with the budget that was advertised, that was discussed with the community. Also, to be very clear, the decision being made tonight does not commit these funds to specific projects. The approximately $8 million that's being discussed here will be subject to all future community consultation rounds and rigorous discussion, and I'm sure rigorous debate in this very chamber about what we're going to be doing with that $8 million. All we're committing to tonight is recognising the very great importance of large intergenerational infrastructure projects. We've been told and seen time and time again that previous councils have not spent enough on these kinds of projects. I don't want to be a council that continues that trend of allowing deterioration, and so by making this commitment, we're making a commitment for these big intergenerational projects that sets up Darebin for the future for both current and the many future residents that we'll have here in Darebin.
Thank you, Councillor Amir. Councillor Lawrence, that's
I move
the
an
end.
amendment.
No, Councillor Lawrence, you're not able to do that. The debate is ended with the right of reply. So I'll now put that to the vote. All those in favour? And against? That was against? Abstained. Okay. Thank you. That motion is carried.
Mayor Rennie, can I have recorded my negative vote on that matter?
You may. Thank you. We'll record Councillor Lawrence's vote in opposition to that motion. There's no provision for recording abstaining. Thank you. We'll now move to item 8.2, appointment of council representatives to external organisations and entities.
Happy to move that, Mayor.
That's moved by Councillor McCarthy. Is there a seconder?
Happy to second with an amendment.
You can't second with an amendment, Councillor Lawrence, so we'll have a... you can move the amendment once we've heard from the mover and seconder, but you can't second with an amendment. So Councillor Amir will second it. Councillor Lawrence, just so you know, we'll hear from the mover and seconder and then I'll come straight to you with your amendment. Councillor McCarthy.
Thank you, Mayor, and thank you, Councillor Amir. And particularly thank you to officers for the work that's gone into this report. The Council needs to, at this point in the year, make appointments to the various organisations and networks that we either have a membership of, that we are an active participant of, or in some cases are in fact an owner or a major stakeholder in, such as the Melbourne Innovation Centre. As councillors would see, I believe all councillors are represented in terms of representation across the organisations, or certainly both in this report and in the following one regarding community advisory committees. Councillors share the load, share the responsibilities of engaging in these organisations, and one of the things that we do know from the involvement in these organisations is that the work is deep, it is important, it's focused, and it's, I suppose, our opportunity here at Darebin to play a part in supporting both things such as waste, such as innovation, such as business development, such as greenhouse action. Across the board, these are the sorts of issues that we deal with in this chamber, and these are the organisations and groups we partner with. So I support the proposal to appoint these councillors to these particular positions. Councillors have had an opportunity to provide input into this recommendation, and I'll probably leave it there.
Thank you, Councillor McCarthy. Councillor Amir.
So as Councillor McCarthy mentioned, we've got a range of committees represented here, and also just to note that in most cases you'll see there's consistency from the appointment in the 2018-19 term to 2019-20 2019-20 term. This is something that's often requested by the other members of these organisations and committees to have continuity of councillors, so to allow those councillors to build their understanding in the context of the issues and to be ongoing representatives for a number of years. So I'm happy to see that we're in most cases able to deliver that request from the groups.
Thank you, Councillor Amir. Councillor Lawrence, you had an amendment.
Yes, Mayor Rennie, I've just got an amendment to the recommendation, simply in relation to the MAV, that Councillor McCarthy's name would be replaced with Councillor Lawrence.
Is that acceptable to the mover and the seconder?
No.
No. Is there a seconder for that amendment? That's seconded by Councillor Williams. So we'll now debate the amendment. Councillor Lawrence.
Madam Mayor, that's just a simple amendment in terms of balancing the representation of people on council across these areas. And as has been noted, Councillor McCarthy can still attend as a councillor to all the forums and of MAV.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Williams.
There's been no changes between the last year and the upcoming year, and I think it's important that at least if Councillor Lawrence would like to be on an external committee, I think we should entitle him to be part of that process.
Thank you, Councillor Williams. Are there any further speakers? There are none. We'll put that to the vote. So we're voting on the amendment proposed by Councillor Lawrence. All those in favour? And against? That motion is lost. That amendment. Councillor Newton.
I'd like to propose an amendment as well.
Yes?
So currently there's no proxy for the MTF, the Metropolitan Transport Forum, and I'd like to propose myself as proxy.
So noted. Is that acceptable to the mover and the seconder?
Yes.
Thank you. That's incorporated. So we'll move Councillor Newton as a proxy on the MTF line. Are there any further amendments or speakers? Councillor
I'd like to
Lasserre.
propose an amendment. Similar to Councillor Newton's, there is 2 councillors that can go on to DEC, and there's only 1 councillor nominated, so I'd like to nominate myself, Councillor Surf, to be appointed to the Darebin Ethnic Communities Council.
Thank you. Is that acceptable to the mover?
Yes.
And the seconder? Yes, so that's been incorporated. We'll put Councillor Lasserre as the second councillor. Are there any further amendments or speakers? Councillor Lawrence.
Yes, I'd propose another amendment for the appointments to MAV for Councillor Rennie proxy to come up and Councillor Lawrence to be the proxy of the MAV.
Thank you. Is that acceptable to the mover and the seconder?
No.
No. Councillor Lawrence, that hasn't been accepted. Is there a seconder for that? That's been seconded by Councillor Williams. So Councillor Lawrence will now debate that. You may speak to that amendment.
Yes, Madam Mayor, obviously this is a important position in terms of both continuity of council policy and also continuity going forward in terms of a new council coming in next year. So continuity is both a past event plus a future event. I think it is important that someone does go to the MAV who represents the community values of the overwhelming part of the community in terms of the community values in the city of Darebin, and a proxy would be appropriate to actually be sharing power in this council.
Thank you, Councillor Lawrence. Councillor Williams.
Nothing further to add.
Thank you. Are there any speakers, further speakers to that amendment? No, I'll put that to the vote. All those in favour? And against? That motion is lost.